Okay, I'm going to get started by just welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is what we call our Pali Canon and English study group, which I'll explain to you guys what that is a little bit later. This individual that we refer to as the Buddha figured out how to get to enlightenment. What enlightenment is, where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will have eliminated all your anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this is occurring through training of the mind. Oftentimes people think that the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated and instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. It was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that he was able to train his mind to get to that point. So the teachings of the Buddha aren't about a bunch of beliefs, of believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. He also didn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. If you see these kinds of things associated with the teachings of the Buddha, those aren't actually the teachings of the Buddha. So what we do for our classes is we start with meditation, because while the Buddha didn't meditate his way to enlightenment, you also wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation either. So you're going to need to learn meditation if you're interested in training your mind and getting to the point where your mind's experiencing this enlightened mental state. So I'm going to start with some chanting in order to be able to ease us into the meditation. I see some of you guys have the chanting sheets. If you'd like to get these, they're over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself and chant along if you like. For those of you guys that are online, you can chant along by going to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com. Click on free books, and if you scroll down towards the middle of the page, you'll see these chanting sheets. So during the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. This is how they were able to remember his teachings. So it was used as a learning tool, as a learning device. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer. Today we use it as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. Where during the lifetime of the Buddha, they used it as a learning tool, as a learning device. But we have books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, things like this to be able to learn the teachings. So that's why we use chanting just as a way to help ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation. So if you chant along, you'll see that it helps you during your meditation session. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself, because the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and said, "Here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me." This would be ego or arrogance. And by the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer have that. You're not putting yourself above people or below people. You just look at everybody as being equal. So the Buddha wouldn't have created these chants himself. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's why I think that these actually came from his students. So you're welcome to chant them as we go into meditation. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing you some guidance where I'm essentially going to be teaching you or instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all just meditating here at the temple and everybody who's joining online. Now, during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping. Someone here might cough or sneeze or something like that. This is all normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence and you hear a sound during meditation, you'll cause your mind to be frustrated or annoyed. But if you understand the world around you is impermanent and things are constantly changing, and you're not going to be able to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet, when you hear sounds during meditation, you can just be at ease. The reason why you can eliminate these discontent feelings is because the mind itself is actually causing them. People think that it's the outside world that's causing them to be angry or frustrated or irritated, but it's actually your own mind. The mind is craving permanence while you live in an impermanent world. So during our meditation, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds, and you can just rest at ease, understanding this is the way the world works, that these things are going to arise, they're going to change, and then they're going to fade away. And you'll notice this during your meditation, that there's various sounds that do that. They are all impermanent. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and then that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand more about the teachings of the Buddha so that you can understand what it takes to be able to move the mind to this enlightened mental state. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. It's kind of like having a tool belt. And now you use the different tools at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. But oftentimes people are learning in the seated position. So I'll provide you guys some guidance on this to be able to help you understand how to sit in a way that's maybe even more comfortable than the way you're already sitting. You can sit however you like. There isn't just one fixed way to actually sit. You could be sitting on the floor, in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. What I'm going to share with you are just suggestions or recommendations, and you can use something that I'm sharing with you, or you can use something that you come up with on your own. There's not just one fixed way to sit, because that would be permanence, and you live in an impermanent world. So everybody's going to find different things to be comfortable. You're not training your body, you're training the mind through the teachings of the Buddha. So if you're sitting on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This is going to help soften your seat. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, this can impede the circulation in the lower body and cause pain. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, again, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and then he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here as well. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up, or some people just rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. And then the same thing's true for anybody in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, but you can see me sitting here in a chair with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you too. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. It's helpful if the upper body is erect. With the sternum up and the shoulders back, it'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Because what meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched like this, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid with the upper body, your mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only will it keep the mind attentive and alert, but it'll also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So I'm going to do some chanting to ease into the meditation. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'm going to come back in with the guidance to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Wat Tung Mahakawanang Apiwateyami Sawakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso imakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokawitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusarang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here, you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโอตังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาตัมโมดามังนามาสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโพโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. As I was sharing, this is called our Pali Canon and English study group, where each Saturday we get together and we actually study the original words of the Buddha. We have various programs here that are going to help you to be able to move your mind to this enlightened mental state that the Buddha taught. The place where people oftentimes start is on our Sunday classes, which is the group learning program. If this is your first time here, it's okay. You'll learn plenty, but just understand that normally this isn't where people actually start. They usually start with the group learning program on Sundays. What we do on Sundays is we go through this book chapter by chapter each Sunday. I take a certain chapter and then I give a talk on that particular chapter. Tomorrow is chapter 5, which is titled The Eightfold Path, the Path for All Humans to Enlightenment. This is where you're learning the core central teaching of the Buddha that's going to help you make your way to enlightenment. You would need to learn this teaching inside and out, backwards and forwards, in order to be able to really make your way to enlightenment. So if you're interested in understanding the core teaching of the Buddha, tomorrow is a great day for that, either at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. And then at 6:30 tomorrow, we have a meditation where I just do meditation with students and then open up to any and all questions that you have. Then we have various courses and retreats that I teach all throughout the year that you can attend here in Chiang Mai, or you can attend online because we live stream. And then also, even if you can't attend live, you can watch the recordings. On Saturdays, what we do is in this book series, we have 13 books. We actually explore all the other books, the volumes 2 through 13. So today we're actually in volume 3. Chapters 31, starting with chapter 31. Volume 3 is titled Foundation in the Teachings, and we do this program a bit different than we do the others. All the others is more like a traditional style of learning, where I will teach like 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I will open up for questions and teach another 15, 20, 30 minutes and open up for questions, where this program is more like a study group. And I'll show you guys how this works. What I do is I invite people here at the temple or the people who are in Zoom to be able to read one of these chapters. these chapters here, like you can see, is only, this one's not even a half a page. After someone reads this chapter, then I'm going to share some teachings on that just to help you understand how it connects to all the other teachings of the Buddha. And then I'm going to open up for any and all questions that you guys might have. These are the original words of the Buddha of what he actually taught during his lifetime. It's from what's called the Pali Canon. The Pali Canon is 45 volumes of books that are this thick, and this is the largest, most complete collection that we have of the teachings of the Buddha. It was originally in the Pali language, that's why they refer to it as the Pali Canon, but now we've translated it into other languages like English, and you can learn what did the Buddha actually teach and what he didn't teach. I've been to over 200 temples in my life, and I've only ever been to one temple that shares the original words of the Buddha. So you can see very few people in the world actually study the original words of the Buddha. And this is why you see so many misunderstandings in the world related to his teachings, because oftentimes you see rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, prayer, and things like this. The Buddha didn't teach any of those things. Or you might hear people talking about belief and believing in things and maybe hoping something good happens when you die. The Buddha didn't do those kinds of things. He taught you to learn, grow, and develop in this life so you can get to a wonderful life in this life. And you'll be able to see more clearly how to do that when you're studying the teachings of the Buddha. Oftentimes people think the Buddha sat under a tree, meditated, and instantly got to enlightenment, and this isn't actually true. You're going to need much more than just meditation in order to get to enlightenment. So what I'll do is I'll invite people here in Zoom to be able to read this. If you'd like to read here, we have microphones in the white bowl there in the middle of the room. We also have some up here in the front. All you need to do is get a microphone, take it back to your seat, press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on, and then you just hold this up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you because you might have a question or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone with them. And then if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so that we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then for anybody who's in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, if you have a question, you can put that in the comment section and I'll be able to see that. And if you're in Zoom and you have a question or you'd like to read, you can just electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. So it looks like someone here online has volunteered to read, so go ahead. Oh, there you are. Yep. Is that Julie? I can't see your name. There you are. Yeah. You should be able to unmute your microphone.
31. Can you hear me?
Yes, I sure can.
Craving/desire is the root of discontentedness. Whatever discontentedness arose in the past, all that arose rooted in craving, desire, with craving, desire as its source, for craving, desire is the root of discontentedness. Whatever discontentedness will arise in the future, all that will arise rooted in craving, desire, with craving, desire as its source, for craving, desire is the root of discontentedness. Whatever discontentedness arises, all that is rooted in craving, desire, has craving, desire as its source, for craving, desire is the root of discontentedness.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So these are the words of the Buddha helping you. Oh, we're getting an echo here. Let me see. There we go. Okay, she muted her mic. That's what it was. Okay, so all the teachings of the Buddha are to help guide you to be able to see true reality and understand what is truly happening in the world and the way that your mind is actually working. Some people might refer to the teachings of the Buddha like a self-help program where you're doing this inner work to grow and develop and become a better and better person. You're getting to the point with the enlightened mental state where your mind no longer experiences any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind. You can get to the point where your mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. But in order to do that, you need to first understand what is actually causing these feelings. Because if you don't understand what's causing the anger, the sadness, and all these other feelings, you would never be able to actually eliminate it. So there's a core central teaching of the Buddha, his very first teaching. It's called the Four Noble Truths. In this teaching, you learn what is the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. And the Buddha describes to you is how all unenlightened beings experience discontentedness. What discontentedness is conditioned feelings, where based on some condition, you are now going to experience a feeling, either pleasant, painful, or neither painful nor pleasant. Pleasant feelings are things like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, and euphoria. Those are very pleasant to be experienced. Then there's painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. Those are very painful for you. Then there's neither painful nor pleasant, like shyness is a very good example of that. It's not painful, it's not pleasant, it's neither painful nor pleasant. Or uncomfortableness, like if someone came and sat close to you on public transportation and your body was touching their body, you might say that it's not painful, it's not pleasant, it's neither painful nor pleasant. These are what's called conditioned feelings, that based on some condition, your mind then experiences a feeling. So for example, if you wake up in the morning and you see it's sunny outside and you get really happy about that, that's conditional happiness. That based on the condition that the sun is there, your mind now experiences happiness. But the problem with that is that you're basing your feeling on something that is impermanent, something that is not permanent. This is why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness and permanent joy. Because as long as you base your inner feelings on some impermanent object, as soon as that changes, your mind's not going to be happy anymore. And everything around you is constantly changing. So if you get happy and excited when it's sunny outside, that means when it's raining or some other weather event, you're going to be sad or frustrated or angry. Or if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, that means when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated. The only thing that's happened here is change. That's all that's happened. But the mind in the unenlightened state craves permanence. And that's what the Buddha is getting to here, is he's saying these discontent feelings, any discontent feelings that you've had in the past, that it all came about because of craving desire. This is the mind's longing, yearning. This is the mind craving permanence. So think about in the past when we were children, we maybe went to our parents and we said, "Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream?" They said, "Sure, you can have chocolate and ice cream. Here you go." And we got chocolate and ice cream. And we were so happy about that. We were so excited. We were like, "Mommy and Daddy, you're such a great mommy and daddy. You're giving me chocolate and ice cream. Yay." Right? We were so happy based on the condition that we had ice cream. Then the second day came around. We were like, "Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream?" They're like, "Sure, here you go. Here's your chocolate and ice cream." Yay, we get chocolate and ice cream. But then the third day comes around and we're like, "Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream?" And they said, "No, you can't have chocolate and ice cream." We were angry. You're the worst mommy and daddy ever, right? Well, this is just because of craving, desire, attachment. The mind's longing, yearning for permanence. We thought mom and dad were causing us to be angry and frustrated. But what the Buddha is helping you to be able to see is that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. As long as you keep thinking that it's other people who are causing these feelings, you'll continue to be angry and sad and frustrated the rest of your life. So the Buddha is helping you to be able to see what's truly causing these feelings so that then you can independently verify it for yourself and you can see the truth. Because remember, his teachings aren't based in belief. With belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody either convinced you to believe it or you convinced yourself to believe it. So you need to be able to peer into this to be able to independently verify it. So what I'm sharing with you here and what the Buddha is sharing with you is any discontentedness you had in the past, any discontentedness you have in the future, or any discontentedness that you're having right now in the present moment, it's all being caused by craving, desire, attachment. The mind's longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of its affection. The mind thinks that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it. It's like an unquenchable thirst that the mind's like, what do I need to be happy here? Oh, more money. That is what'll do it. Let me get some more money. And now the mind will chase after money for a while. And if you get it, you're happy. But it's only temporary because it'll fade away. And if you don't get your money, you'll be angry or frustrated. And then the mind's like, what do I need to be happy? A new boyfriend, a new girlfriend, that'll fix everything. Let me get one of those. And now you'll chase after that for a while. You'll get a new boyfriend, a new girlfriend, and you'll be happy at the beginning, but then that fades away and you get angry and sad and frustrated. And then you're like, what do I need to be happy here? I know what I'll do. I'll go to Thailand. That'll fix everything. Let me go to Thailand. And now you get really excited and happy to come to Thailand. But then when it's time to go back home, you're like, oh, I don't want to go home. They have mango and sticky rice in Thailand. They have massages and elephants, and I want to stay here, right? So this is what the mind's doing because of its craving. It's holding on and craving permanence. But you can actually transform all of this. You can get rid of all of this. You can get to the point where your mind enjoys Thailand, but you can enjoy being at home too. But you need to understand what's causing this. So the Buddha here is just helping you to be able to see that all your discontentedness is being caused from your own mind. The mind's craving, desire, the longing, the yearning, the wants and expectations. And the mind can only be happy when it gets what it wants in the unenlightened state. That essentially, like if my mom and dad do this, if my brothers and sisters do this, if my boss does this, if the weather is this, if my bank account has this much money, if I have this kind of house and this kind of car, then I'll be happy, right? So your happiness is shrinking because it's conditional happiness. What the Buddha is teaching you to do is get to unconditional happiness, where you can just be happy all the time. But you can't do that as long as your mind has craving, desire, attachment. So he's bringing to your attention what's causing these feelings. And then in other parts of his teachings, he's helping you to figure out how to eliminate them. Because that's what he did, is he figured out how to eliminate them. But you need to cultivate that wisdom to be able to see what's causing these feelings, so that then you can apply the tools and the techniques to be able to eliminate them. So what I'll invite you to do is be able to independently verify this for yourself. Is don't believe what I'm sharing. Don't believe what the Buddha is teaching you here. Look at your own life. Look at a recent time when you were angry or sad or frustrated. Might have been this morning. Might have been yesterday or last week. Look at that situation with these fresh eyes. What did you want? What did you expect? What were you craving and desiring? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get it, you were angry or sad or frustrated. And if you can't see this truth, let me know, because I've had plenty of people over the years need help with this. One time I had a student call me up and they said, David, I need your help. I said, okay, sure. What do you need help with? They said, David, I know you teach that it's my own mind that causes these feelings, but I'm sure it's my wife and I need your help. I said, okay, what do you got? And they said, well, I went to work the other day and my house looked beautiful. But when I came home, it was a mess. She had a craft project all over the house. And when I walked in, I got frustrated and irritated. How did my mind cause this? I wasn't even there. She's the one who messed up the house. And I said, okay, well, what your mind was doing is it was craving permanence. You were expecting your house to look exactly the same when you came home as when you went to work. The only thing that's happened here is change. That's it. That your house looked a certain way and now it looks a different way. And that isn't going to be permanent either. She's going to put her craft project away, right? But the mind craves permanence. You might have shown up to the airport at one time, wanting to go somewhere, wanting to travel. And now the airline company tells you that your flight is delayed or it's canceled. And now you might be frustrated or irritated or annoyed. It's not the airline company that's causing that. What it is the mind's craving permanence. The mind wants every airplane to take off on time. And it's not possible for every airplane to take off on time, especially the ones you're on, right? That's what the mind wants. I want every airplane to take off on time, especially the ones I'm on, right? But it's not possible. There's going to be weather issues. There's going to be maintenance issues. There's going to be crew issues. Things are going to happen where this impermanence, this change is going to occur, and you're sometimes going to meet with delays when you travel by air, right? This is the way the world is constructed, that things are constantly changing. So you need to be able to see this for yourself. You can't believe me. You can't believe the books. You can't believe what the Buddha taught. You have to be able to see this. And this is what we mean by awakening to enlightenment, is you cultivate wisdom. By cultivating wisdom and being able to see the truth, you can get rid of these false beliefs that you have. And now you can bring in wisdom and you can understand how the world truly works. And now you can navigate it peacefully. But you need to understand first what's causing these feelings, because you'll never get rid of them if you don't actually understand what's causing them. Because in the unenlightened state, when you feel angry and frustrated, you'll firmly believe that it's something external. And what you'll tend to do is you'll push people away. This is called aversion, where you might have pushed away friends or family out of your life, thinking that they're the ones who are causing you to be angry. You might have pushed them away, or you might have pushed away a certain situation. Or you might have been bitter and harsh and hostile with people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, firmly believing they're the ones who are causing you to be angry. Or you might be putting your expectations on people and trying to pressure them to do things your way. And people might be doing this to you too, where they're pushing you away. They're being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, and they're putting their expectations on you. This is because the mind doesn't understand that it's not the outside world that's causing these feelings. Now, these people might be doing something that's unwise. They could truly be doing something that's unwise, but the mind's craving permanence. The mind wants everybody to do things this way. And when people do things this way, you're happy. But when they don't do it that way, you're angry or sad or frustrated. And when you can peer through this and you can see it, the truth for yourself, you can have a real breakthrough. That way you can start applying the tools and the techniques to actually be able to fix this. But if you can't see this, then you'll continue to think that it's other people that's causing your feelings, and you won't actually apply the tools and the techniques to fix it. So do you guys have any questions on this discourse here, where the Buddha is helping you to be able to see that it's craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations that's causing these discontent feelings? Remember, here you guys can use the microphones, and then online you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Looks like we have a question here in Zoom. Let's see. This gentleman says, "Good morning. Master, can any one person be totally rid of discontentedness, especially little things like foods for surviving, soap we need for bathing, clothes, etc.? Therefore, to get enlightened, discontentedness can be misleading at times. Please elaborate. Thank you." Everybody and anybody can get to enlightenment. Sometimes people think that it's only ordained practitioners that can get to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. Household practitioners can get to enlightenment. People who live a normal life in a house, you guys can get to enlightenment too. Ordained practitioners can get to enlightenment. The things that you talk about, like the basic necessities to sustain your life, like food, clothing, shelter, and medical care, by the time you get to enlightenment, you will have those things available to you. You won't be without those things, because you would have developed your life to the point where you can actually sustain your life in a morally responsible and ethical way, and you're not going to be tied to your money. So to get to enlightenment, you just need to train your mind to not long and yearn for those things. So let's just say you have a certain type of food. Well, sometimes when you eat food, it's going to taste good, right? It's going to have a certain taste, and it's like, wow, this is really great food. But other times you're going to taste food and it's not going to taste so great. This is the impermanent nature of the world. If the mind craves for enjoyable food every single time, that means when you taste a certain food that you don't like, you'll be annoyed or frustrated. That's the mind's craving, desire, attachment. It's craving permanence while you live in an impermanent world. So yes, everybody and anybody can get to enlightenment. You just need to train your mind to be able to understand the path. Just like you learned how to clean this body growing up as a child and your parents taught you that, you need to learn how to clean the mind too. Right? If you went around without cleaning this body for several weeks or several months or years, you'd be very uncomfortable. Well, if you didn't learn how to clean the mind, you've been walking around all these years without a clean mind. And that's why you have stress and anxiety and all this other discontent feelings like frustration and so forth. Because there's more than just a body here. There's a body, but then there's the mind too. And you need to be able to address both of these. And typically we're only taught how to clean the body when we're growing up. But here in Thailand, they learn how to clean the mind as well. And this is why the Thai people are generally fairly peaceful people, because they're learning how to clean the body, but also clean the mind as well. And you can learn that as well. Any other questions here? Anybody online have questions? No questions? Okay. So let's go to this next one. By the way, what you have here in this book is you have the words of the Buddha. you have this reference that takes you back to the original source teachings in the Pali Canon. Then you've got words from me that are further helping you explore this. The Buddha taught very clear, very concise, and very precise, but it's helpful to have a dedicated practitioner and teacher to guide you on the path. You wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment by yourself. You would need teachers and guides to be able to help you. So it's helpful to have somebody that's learned and practiced the teachings to kind of guide you. But here what I'm doing is I'm just helping you to see how the teachings of the Buddha connect together and also how to implement them into your life. Because the Buddha taught very clear and very concise. There doesn't need to be, his words don't need to be interpreted or anything like that. Yes, ma'am. Could you get a mic either here or back there? You'll just need to press the gray button. There you go. Yep.
So I have a question. Isn't searching for unconditional happiness a form of craving as well?
Your mind can crave anything and everything, but it doesn't have to. So for example, before I answer that directly, if you had a bottle of water, a liter of water in your car, and you were on your way to a hiking trail, or somebody was on their way to a hiking trail, they could be out on the trail 30 minutes down the trail and realize they forgot their water. And they could be like, oh my goodness, my water, my water, my water. And then they could, run back to their car. Maybe they twist their ankle on the way. They sling open the door. And now it's like, oh, water, 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 water. And now they've got their water, right? But there could also be somebody else out on the trail. It's like, I forgot my water. I'm going to be out here for 6 hours, 8 hours. I should probably go get my water. And now they calmly make their way back to the car to be able to get their water. And then they can go on their hike, right? So it's not the object itself, the fact that somebody is interested in getting to this peace and joy or this enlightened mental state. It's not that determines whether it is a craving, desire, attachment or not. It's how the mind's pursuing it. So someone could chase after enlightenment, be longing, yearning for it, but they would never actually get to it as long as their mind is craving enlightenment. But also, if you're all the way on the other side where you could care less about what's going on in your mind and you were just indifferent, then you're not going to get to enlightenment there either. So everything the Buddha taught you is to come to the middle way where you can gradually pursue your goals, objectives, or interests through wise decision making. So you can actually gradually pursue the path to enlightenment where you're making wise decisions to progress towards enlightenment, but you're not chasing it. You're not longing, yearning for it. And you're also not indifferent either. One of the ways that I help students to be able to accomplish this, because it's very possible for the mind to crave enlightenment when people hear the benefits of it. And I haven't even talked about all the benefits of enlightenment in this class yet. But once people hear the benefits of it, their mind oftentimes will crave it. So one of the things that I teach people so that your mind doesn't crave enlightenment is to think about it as your mind is already enlightened. If you're trying to attain enlightenment, it's something that you don't have. So therefore, your mind oftentimes will chase after it. But if you think about it as your mind is already enlightened, but you have these pollutions that are in your mind that are hindering you from being able to experience the enlightened mental state. And you need to get these pollutions out of the way. That's what the Buddha discovered, is there's these individual pollutions in the mind and you need to get them out of the way. And as you do, you'll start seeing more and more of the qualities of enlightenment shining through in your mind. So it's kind of like if you had the sun and there was clouds in front of the sun and you started peeling the clouds away, the rays of the sun will slowly start shining through. So rather than thinking about it as attaining enlightenment, because that's something you don't have and now maybe the mind might chase after it, think about it like the mind is already enlightened. You just have these pollutions in the way that are hindering you from experiencing it, and you need to get those pollutions out of the way. The only difference between this analogy with the sun and the clouds versus the mind is eventually the clouds are going to come back and now it blocks the sun again. But by the time you get to enlightenment and you get rid of these pollutions out of the mind will never experience any discontent feelings ever again. Once those pollutions are out of the mind, they can never come back. It's not possible for them to come back. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, I don't see any other questions. So let's go to this next one. This is chapter 32. Is there someone who would like to read this one? Rachel? Okay. Joe? Yeah. One of you guys grabbing a mic. One of the things the unenlightened mind has is it has shyness, right? Because it doesn't want to be perceived by others in a certain way. So you kind of retreat and you don't want to do things like this. But actually, you'll find that you get over your shyness by putting your mind in the situation that it doesn't want to be in. If you just kind of continue to retreat like this, you'll never get over that. So I would encourage you in these kinds of situations where you see your mind being shy is actually put your mind in the situation where you would need to talk, and then you'll actually overcome that shyness. So I don't think Joe's shy. Are you shy, Joe?
Sometimes.
Okay.
7 principles to prosper and not decline. Brahman, in the Vijayans keep these 7 principles as long as these principles remain in force. The Vijayans may be predicted to prosper and not decline. The followings are the 7 principles that the Tathagata said to Venerable Ananda in the presence of Vasakara Brahman. Ananda, the Vajrayans hold regular and frequent assemblies. Number 2, Ananda, the Vajrayans meet in harmony, break up in harmony, and carry on their business in harmony. Number 3, Ananda, the Vajrayans do not authorize what has not been authorized already and do not abolish what has been authorized, but proceed according to what has been authorized by their ancient tradition. Number 4, Ananda, the Vajrayans honor, respect, revere, and salute the elders among them and consider them worth listening to. 5, Ananda, the Vajrayans do not forcibly abduct others, wives, and daughters and compel them to live with them. Number 6, Ananda, the Vajrayans honor, respect, revere, and salute the Vajrayan shrines at home and abroad, not withdrawing the proper support made and given before. 7, Ananda, the Vajrayans make proper provision for the safety of Arahants, so that such Arahants may come to the future to live there, and those already there may reside in comfort. Ananda, so long as they keep these principles, the Vajrayans may be predicted to prosper and not decline.
All right. Thank you, sir. So what the Buddha is talking about here is a population of people that were living a lot in harmony. And as they were living in harmony, the Buddha was commenting on what they were doing that was allowing them to live in harmony. And now he was suggesting to others to be able to practice these same things. And as they practice these same things, it would allow them to be in harmony as well. So here, the Buddhist here, this is the Tathagata means the Buddha. The word Tathagata means the one who's discovered the truth or the one who shares the truth. This is the way he would refer to himself. He very infrequently referred to himself as the Buddha. He more frequently referred to himself as the Tathagata. So here he's talking to his student Ananda, who's a very close student. We think Ananda was like his brother-in-law or maybe his cousin or something like this, who came to study with him. And he was with the Buddha for a long time during his life. And he's talking about, okay, they hold regular and frequent assemblies, meaning they come together as a community to have discussions and talks, that when they meet, they're in harmony. And when they break up from the meeting, they're in harmony. And when they carry on their business, they're also in harmony, right? They're getting along well with each other. Then here they're saying they do not authorize what has not been authorized already, and they do not abolish what has been authorized, but proceed according to what has been authorized by their ancient tradition, right? So they kind of agree to a certain way to conduct themselves, certain rules, or we might call these laws, like today. Then they honor, respect, revere, and salute the elders among them and consider them worth listening to, right? Like older people. The reason why they're old and they've gotten to that point where they're old is they've made wise decisions in their life. Because if you're not making wise decisions, you'll die pretty early in life, right? Like if you go out there and you're bitter and harsh and hostile and you're fighting with people, you might die in 18, 20, 25, 30 years old. But for people to get older, there's some amount of wisdom that they would have cultivated to be able to get to that old age. So it's wise to listen to older people. You might not agree with what they say all the time, or you might not understand their perspective of where they're coming from because they lived in a different generation than us. But nonetheless, there's some wisdom that they have in order to be able to get to that age. And it would be wise to be able to listen to elders because now you cultivate that wisdom to be able to then guide your life. Then here he says they do not forcibly abduct others' wives and daughters and compel them to live with them. This is something that was going on during the lifetime of the Buddha, as people were essentially kidnapping women to be able to force them to live with them. And the Buddha is saying, hey, this population of people doesn't do that. And that's going to obviously help them to live in more harmony. Then they honor, respect, revere, and salute the Vajrayan shrines at home and abroad, not withdrawing proper support made and given before. So this is like an honor of their elders in certain shrines. And then lastly, the Buddha typically does this, is he puts the most important thing last when he's talking, and he creates these lists. He will usually put the most important thing last. Here he's talking about that they make proper provisions for the safety of arahants. What an arahant is an enlightened being. This is how they would refer to an enlightened being during the lifetime of the Buddhas. They would refer to them as an arahant. So if you have a bunch of arahants that are in your community, a bunch of enlightened beings, this is going to be very helpful for your community, because having people who have the wisdom of how to get to enlightenment in your community, that wisdom is going to be shared with other people, either directly or inadvertently. Like you just go to the store and you interact with a cashier in a loving and kind and warm and gentle way, and that's going to ripple throughout the community. So if you have a bunch of enlightened beings in your community, it's going to promote peace and harmony within your community. So the Buddha is saying here that these people make provisions for the safety of arahants, so that arahants may come there in the future to live, and those that are already there reside in comfort. So we might think about Thailand as being this kind of place, or this kind of population of people, that I see a lot of these same qualities that the Buddha is talking about here in Thailand with the Thai people, that they have a lot of these same qualities. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of people enjoy coming here, because it's quite peaceful here. Of course, there are certain people here in Thailand that don't practice the teachings of the Buddha, and they might be bitter and harsh and hostile or aggressive, but it's pretty rare to see that kind of thing going on here in Thailand, that people are generally very loving and kind and warm and gentle. They're very generous, compassionate, and loving with each other. So this is a discourse from the Buddha, just helping people to understand what a population of people can do in order to be able to live in harmony with each other. And this would be kind of supplemental to his other teachings that he has, which are more direct and more specific for each individual person to be able to learn and practice and be able to train your mind. So do you guys have questions on this particular discourse here? Anything you guys would like to ask? No questions? Okay. So maybe we'll read one more and then we'll just kind of finish up for today. So would somebody like to read this one? This is chapter 33. Nancy? Yeah, go for it.
Four things that lead to the continuation of the wholesome teachings. There are amongst these four things that lead to the continuation, non-decline, and non-disappearance of the wholesome teachings. What for? Number one, here, the monks learn discourses that have been well acquired, with well set down words and phrases. When the words and phrases are well set down, the meaning is well understood. This is the first thing that leads to the continuation, non-declines, and non-disappearance of the wholesome teachings. Number two, again, the monks are easy to correct and possess qualities that make them easy to correct. They are patient and accept instruction respectfully. This is the second thing that leads to the continuation, non-decline, and non-disappearance of the wholesome teachings. Number three, again, those monks who are learned, heirs to the heritage, experts on the teachings, experts on the disciplines, experts on the outlines, respectfully teach the discourses to others. When they have passed away, the discourses are not cut off at the root, for there are those who preserve them. This is the third thing that leads to the continuation, non-decline, and non-disappearance of the wholesome teachings. Number 4, again, the elder monks are not luxurious and complacent, but they discard backsliding and take the lead in solitude. They arouse energy for the attainment of the as yet unattained, for the achievement of the as yet unachieved, for the realization of the as yet unrealized. Those in the next generation follow the example. They too do not become luxurious and complacent, and they discard backsliding and take the lead in solitude. They too arouse energy for the attainment of the as yet unattained, for the achievement of the as yet unachieved, for the realization of the as yet unrealized. This is the fourth thing that leads to the continuation, non-decline, and non-disappearance of the wholesome teachings. These monks are the four things that lead to the continuation, non-decline, and non-disappearance of the wholesome teachings.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So during the lifetime of the Buddha, he was sharing the teachings that it takes to get to this enlightened mental state, and he knew that he had discovered those teachings because he could see through his own mind that his mind had been transformed to this enlightened mental state. As I share with you guys, not only do you experience the elimination of discontent feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others, and the mind's completely peaceful and joyful, the mind's calm and serene, you also notice that the mind is focused. You have concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Because when you get rid of those pollutions out of the mind is actually performing optimally. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming. That in the unenlightened state, you'll have a certain amount of bitterness and hostility in your mind, and you'll put that out in your relationships, and that's all going to come back to you, and it's going to affect you in your day-to-day life, in your relationships. You'll notice you'll get to the point where you don't even have a bad mood anymore, that it's physically impossible to have a bad mood by the time you get to enlightenment. So the Buddha shared these teachings throughout his life from the age of 35 to 80 that was helping people to understand how to get to this enlightened mental state. And during that 45-year teaching career, countless people got to enlightenment during his lifetime. But during his lifetime, he predicted that his teachings would actually decline. And he talked about this. He talked about these 500-year cycles that his teachings would go through, because he understood his teachings were impermanent, that they were not permanent, because people's minds understanding his teachings would slowly degrade over time. That during his lifetime, the teachings were very bright, very vibrant, very much shining in the world. And for the first 500 years after he died, the same thing is true, that the teachings were very strong in the world and lots of people were getting to enlightenment. But after he died and got farther and farther away from that, his teachings gradually declined. And he talks about this in other parts of his teachings, where here what he's describing is how to ensure that his teachings are maintained for the longest period of time if possible. The ordained practitioners are supposed to be the leaders of the community, meaning that they're leading a community in how to be able to get to enlightenment. And if the ordained practitioners are very strong in their wisdom and understanding of the teachings, then the community can be very strong in developing their wisdom to be able to get to enlightenment too. But if the ordained practitioners don't have the wisdom of how to get to enlightenment for themselves, they wouldn't be able to then share it with the household practitioners so that the household practitioners could also get to enlightenment. So the Buddha here is focusing on the ordained practitioners and saying, okay, monks, learn the discourses that have been well acquired, well set down words and phrases. When the words and phrases are well set down, the meaning is well understood. Because when you're sharing the teachings of the Buddha as a teacher, it's important that you pay attention to each individual word and phrase that you're using. You don't just haphazardly as a teacher start sharing the teachings. You need to be very conscious of the words that you're sharing and how you're communicating the teachings, because it's challenging for the unenlightened mind to be able to understand this path. But the more clear you are as a teacher to be able to share what it takes to be able to get to enlightenment, then the students can actually understand. So if you as an individual have learned very well words and phrases to be able to understand the teachings, then you can communicate that as a teacher, and now the teachings will continue in the world for a longer period of time. And then individuals need to be easy to correct and possess qualities that make them easy to correct. Because one of the things that a teacher does when they have students is they help them to be able to see the path. And one of the things that a teacher needs to do is what the Buddha calls pointing out treasure, that a teacher needs to point out for their students the things where maybe they're having missteps and they're not understanding what their own mind is experiencing. Because, for example, one of the things that the unenlightened mind has is it has conceit, which is part of the ego, where the mind thinks that I'm great and everybody else is the problem, or the mind might think that I'm superior to others and it puts itself below others in certain situations as well. Well, oftentimes the unenlightened mind has difficulty seeing its own ego, that the mind doesn't see that it's being arrogant and prideful or boastful towards other people. And it's helpful for a teacher to be able to point out for their student that that's what's occurring so that they can then see it. Because the mind in the unenlightened state lacks mindfulness or awareness of mind. That's part of what you're building as you develop your practice, is you're developing this mindfulness or awareness of mind. So a teacher oftentimes needs to help their students by pointing out for them, hey, you've got some ego over here, or you're speaking with your parents harshly over here, or maybe you're speaking in an unwise way with your brothers and sisters over here. Ultimately, it's up to each individual student to build that wisdom, to be able to see that for themselves. But in certain situations where a teacher is around their student, they can actually point that out for them. And this is part of the reasons why an individual needs a teacher, so that the teacher can kind of help them see the things about their mind that they're not seeing themselves. But if a student was hard to correct and they weren't interested in that guidance and that understanding, they're not going to be able to learn the path that it takes to be able to get to enlightenment. And that means there's less and less people getting to enlightenment, so the teachings are going to degrade. One of the ways to keep the teaching strong and vibrant in the world is for countless people to get to enlightenment. The more people that get to enlightenment, the teachings will be very strong and vibrant in the world. So if people were not easy to correct, it wouldn't allow the teachings to be able to come into the world for more and more people to get to enlightenment, for them to stay in a sustainable way where they can be very bright and vibrant for people to learn and practice. Then here he talks about where monks who are learned, heirs of the heritage, experts on the teachings, experts on the discipline, experts on the outline, respectfully teach the discourses to others, right? That not only have you gotten to enlightenment, but you also are willing to then share it with other people. And you do that respectfully. A teacher should be very respectful of their students. Just like the students would be wise to be respectful to their teacher, it would be wise for the teacher to be respectful to the students too. And now that mutual respect breeds lots of success in terms of people being able to get to enlightenment. Whereas if a teacher was disrespectful to their students and the students were disrespectful to the teacher, those people aren't going to really get to enlightenment, because in order to get to enlightenment, by the time you get to enlightenment, you'll be respectful with everybody. Right now, you might find that to be challenging, that there might be certain people that you're disrespectful to. But by the time you get to enlightenment, and as you're making your way to enlightenment, you will train your mind to get to the point where you can be respectful to everybody. Oftentimes, people can only respect people who do things your way. And if people don't do things your way, you'll be disrespectful to them. But you need to understand impermanence, that people are going to do things differently, and that's okay. That is impermanence, that you can disagree with the person's choices and decisions while still having respect for them and still having love for this person. Oftentimes people, they will like certain people, but then they will dislike other people. The reason why you're disliking these people is because your mind craves permanence. You want everybody to do things this way, and you can only like people who do things this way. But when they don't do things that way, you will dislike them. And you need to be able to see that that dislike is coming from your own mind. It's not coming from the other person. It's the mind craving permanence. So the Buddha's discourses need to be explained. They need to be talked about. They need to be discussed. And by discussing them and sharing them openly in the public, then more and more people can get to enlightenment, and the teachings can really shine brightly in the world. And then he's saying here that when they pass away, these people who understand the teachings well, the discourses are not cut off at the root, for there are those who preserve them. Because once you learn the teachings of the Buddha and you see that they actually lead to enlightenment, you will never forget these teachings. You will learn them and you will commit them to your memory and you will practice them, and you will see that it improves the condition of your mind in your life. And you will never forget those. And if people are interested in learning them, you'd be willing to share them with them, because these teachings will lead to the very best thing that you've ever experienced in your entire life, which is this peaceful and joyful mental state. And whatever it takes for you to get to that peaceful and joyful mental state, you'll never actually forget it. So the teachings of the Buddha are to heal from what hurts you so that you never need to hurt ever again. And when you get to that point where your mind has been healed and is completely peaceful and joyful, you will never forget that, of what it took for you to get to that point. And then if people share those teachings, it'll maintain the teachings in the world so that more and more people can actually learn them. Then this last one, the Buddha talks about elder monks or senior monks not being luxurious or complacent, because that's sometimes what the mind does in the unenlightened state. Is it's luxurious, it wants to be comfortable all the time, and it becomes complacent, that you might not be willing to apply the dedication, the determination, and the effort involved that it takes to do this work to learn how to get to enlightenment. But if people are not complacent and they actually apply determination, dedication, and diligence to grow and develop on the path, now individuals can actually see these teachings really shine in the world. That's where he's talking about here, that they discard backsliding, that they take the lead in solitude, that they arouse energy for the attainment of the as yet unattained, for the achievement as the as yet unachieved, for the realization as the as yet unrealized, meaning you apply effort and energy towards your own growth and development, and that you discard backsliding, that you don't allow your mind to regress backwards. By the time you get to the first stage of enlightenment, your mind won't regress backwards, but on your way to that, your mind can actually regress if you become complacent. By the time you get to enlightenment, your mind definitely won't regress, but even in the first stage of enlightenment, your mind won't regress from there. So you need to be able to apply this effort and energy to the point where your mind's fully, completely enlightened, and now having that peace and joy with lots and lots of people in the world that are enlightened, the teachings can sustain in the world. But if we had the opposite of these things, which is actually what the next discourse is all about, here the Buddha teaches the opposite, where he says the 4 things that lead to decline and disappearance of the wholesome teachings. He shares here that the discourses are badly acquired with badly set down words and phrases, and the phrases and the meaning is badly understood, right? This is where a lot of people are right now, is they don't actually understand the true original words of the Buddha. And then people are difficult to correct, right? They're impatient and they don't accept instruction respectfully. Sometimes that's what you'll see, right? And then the people who are learned or experts on the teachings, they don't respectfully teach the discourses to others. And then when they pass away, there's no one to preserve them. And then the elder monks are actually luxurious. They're complacent. They actually backslide. They don't go into solitude and train their mind to be comfortable in solitude. So the Buddha's teachings can shine in the world, and more people can actually experience this enlightened mental state. And he's giving guidance of how to make sure that they stay bright and vibrant in the world. And oftentimes people aren't studying with the original words of the Buddha, and this is why we see so many misunderstandings in the world. But what if I was you, I would make sure that you get good, reliable translations of the teachings of the Buddha in a language that you can understand, so that way you can learn and practice the teachings. And then you can have a dedicated teacher, someone that will actually guide you on the path, so that way you can get the insight that you need and the guidance that you need to gradually make progress towards this enlightened mental state. And now as you choose to do that, you'll see improvement to the condition of your mind in your life. Because the teachings of the Buddha, again, they're not a bunch of beliefs that are going to culminate in something beneficial after you die. His teachings are wisdom that you can learn now in this life, and you can see improvement now in this life. That it's not like you work for 10 years and then all of a sudden someone flips a switch and you're enlightened. Instead, you're gradually experiencing improvement to the condition of your mind in your life all the way through until you get to enlightenment. So this is the last chapter here that we're going to cover, just talking about how to maintain the wholesome teachings. Is there any questions that you guys have about anything I've been sharing, whether it's this chapter or any others, either here or online? Okay, we have a question here online. Let's see. How how Abhidhamma Pitaka and Sutta Pitaka can help in meditation progression. So what this individual is asking about is there's different parts to this Pali Canon that we talked about, these 45 volumes of books. And what you would like to study is the suttas. The Abhidhamma is actually not the original words of the Buddha. This is actually written by scholars, and it's a summary of the teachings of the Buddha. So if you study the actual suttas, then you'll actually see what the Buddha taught and what he didn't teach. And that's what I share, is the original words of the Buddha, the discourses. These are his actual teachings. That's what you would like to explore. And if you get that books from our website, which you can download for free, you can take them and go print them. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get them on Amazon. Then you'll be able to see what the Buddha actually taught with helpful, reliable translations. Okay, I don't see any other questions anywhere. So what I'm going to do is just end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and grow and develop on the path. As you guys would like to learn more, there's plenty of opportunities for you guys. We have courses and classes and retreats and all these things available to you. You'll see them on our bulletin board over there. You'll also see them on our website. If you go to our website, you'll be able to see our events calendar and all the options for you to learn there. If there's something that I can help you with, feel free to come talk with me. Maybe you have some personal things you'd like to talk about. You're more than welcome to do that as well. And you can get access to all these resources. There's help for you to be able to help you get to this enlightened mental state, and it's all available for you at no cost. All you need to do is decide you'd like to put in the effort and energy to learn, grow, and develop and experience the improvement that you can experience through learning and practicing the teachings of the Buddha. So whatever you choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee-khap. Sawadee-khap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.